Our Ecology Project is located at Fremont, California, at Mission San Jose High School. The average temperature here is 60 to 70 degrees. Our ecosystem is located at the center of Mission San Jose High, near the gym. The elevation here is 38.7096 meters. Our little ecosystem is divided into a little rocky section, a bunch of tan bark, and a building wall on the side. There are trees planted by people and bushes placed by people. These producers are what create the basis of this ecosystem.
Why, hello there. Let me explain you my ecology species. There are two types of birds that are very commonly found at Mission San Jose High School. Two types of birds are the black pheo, or they're classified as Cyrnus naricans, and the blackbird, or classified as Turdus mercula. The two birds I just named are scavengers. When humans toss food to the ground, they gather around and pick up the food and bring it back to their nest. The most common birds that live in Fremont, California are called the black pheo. They're small, plump songbirds with large heads and medium-long, square tails. They live near water and make short flights to catch insects. Throughout the year, summer, winter, and migration, they mostly live near the west coast.
As you can see, these are the nests for this species of birds. The nests are really small and they can only hold a few birds at a time. That is why these birds are known as case specialists. They can only care for so few at a time. The lack of any more nests also show that there is a carrying capacity. There can only be so many birds living in this place at once.
First day of our ecology project, I discovered this rare and beautiful species, the Amanita calatroderma, or cocora. It is a beautiful mushroom, native to the western coast of North America. It is a golden brown and a fall plant. They have a clump dispersion pattern. They tend to cluster around plants as they decompose the dead detritus when the leaves fall off. They are mainly fall species as they need to decompose the stuff as it falls off. In the spring they tend to die off as they are seasonal. You can see in this graph numbers decreased as spring came along. The less detritus there was decomposed, the less energy they had, and eventually they died off. Human interaction also played a part in this. My mushrooms were stomped on and therefore died. This interaction between human factors and regular seasonal factors contributed to the extinction of my species in our ecosystem.
Hello, my name is Kevin and I am doing my project on the common harvester ant, Mesor hendring. So what I've noticed most about this animal is that its behavior in its habitat. It shows a positive taxis for food on the ground. For example, there was a dropped grape near the rocks the other day, and there was a bunch of ants swarming all over it. The other behavior it demonstrates is kinesis. For example, when people step near an ant line on the ground, the ant line will shift around so that it will be more efficient in carrying its food. It also is affected by human activity, where, as I have mentioned earlier, we leave trash on the ground, and so the ants will just come over and take in the trash. There was also this relationship between ant temperature and weather. When the temperature was really cold, and the ants were probably just became sluggish, and not that many would appear during this time. However, when temperatures were hot and the sun wasn't really shiny, ants were found everywhere, just evenly distributed. But when it was too sunny, the ants would be more concentrated under the eaves, where it was more shady for them, and therefore easier to move.
Over the span of around 5 weeks, I've been observing, researching, stalking if you will, this astounding organism. I've been researching and observing the Canyon Prince giant rye, also known as the Lamus condensatus canyon prince. This grass-like plant usually grows in clumps, in groups. In the 10 plants clumps that I've seen, they usually grow to around 2 to 3 feet in diameter and 2 to 3 feet tall. And usually the flowering stems are usually slightly taller. In the beginning of the first 5 weeks, I've observed many things. I saw how the flowers started as buds, and slowly it grew and it opened to be flowers. And I also observed an interesting relationship between the bees and the flowers. I saw a sense of mutualism between the bees and the plants. The bees would arrive onto the flowers to get nectar, while also attracting the pollen onto its feet. And I would see that from flower to flower, it would have a sort of dispersing among the pollen, aiding in a sort of plant sex, if you will. Another interesting thing I saw was that within the first week of the flowering plants, they were cut. I conclude that this is from human interactions, but I also saw that some plants were shriveling, possibly due to the heat, and also later I see that nearby low-bearing shrubs or weeds would have a competition with the flowers, as it would slowly grow over few of the clumps, and I would say that it would bring shade, blocking our plants from growing. Soon there were many flowers which began to fall off and perhaps die, but recently I've seen that they are starting to bud again.
Hello, my name is Neilson. In this ecology project, I studied the species the honeybees. Now, first things first, the honeybees are different from the bumblebees and the wasps. They were all around the same general area, around the shrubs that Jeremy studied. The major difference is, well, pretty obvious. See, this is a honeybee, this is a bumblebee. The bumblebee is like black. The honeybee here is different from the wasp. And you can just kind of... Between the honeybee and the bushes existed a bond of mutualism. Basically, the two would help each other out. The honeybee goes to the flower on the bush to get the nectar. While it does that, it gets pollen on it. And when it goes to another flower, it pollinates it. This bond is so important that species like these two have evolved together and that also explains the peculiarity of the honeybee's activity. I noticed that when the sun is shining brightly and it is very hot, there are more bees around than normal. First I thought this is because the honeybees might need the heat in order to be active, but after thinking about it, it might be something deeper. What happens when it gets hotter? Plants start to do their pollination thing. Proximate causation is the explanation of an animal's behavior based on trigger stimuli and internal mechanisms. The trigger stimuli could trace it back to being the sun that shines in the sky. And then that would signal to the plants that it's time for spring! And they would do their business, which would then trigger the honeybee's activity. I think this because the appearance of the honeybees did not come gradually with the temperature. It came suddenly all at once. You remember that time when your nose started running uncontrollably? Yeah, it was that time. I don't think I got it.